Mama said, don't give up. It's a little complicated. All tied up, no more love. And I'd hate to see you waiting. Had to have high hopes for a living. Shooting for the stars, but I couldn't make a killing. Didn't have a dime, but I always had a vision. Always had high hopes. Had to have high hopes for a living. Didn't know how, but I always had a feeling. I was gonna be that one in a million. Always had high hopes. Mama said, something for oddities, stranger causes. Ain't ever wannabes, winning the novelties that don't ever change. We wanted everything, wanted everything. Stay up on that rise, stay up on that rise, never come down. Oh, stay up on that rise, stay up on that rise, never come down. Mama said, don't give up. It's a little complicated, all tied up, no more love. And I'd hate to see you waiting. They say it's all been done, but they haven't seen the best of me. So I got one more run, and it's gonna be a sight to see. Had to have high hopes for a living. Shooting for the stars when I couldn't make a killing. Didn't have a dime, but I always had a vision. Always had high hopes. Had to have high hopes for a living. Didn't know how, but I always had a feeling. I was gonna be that one in a million. Always had high hopes. Had to have high hopes for a living. Shooting for the stars when I couldn't make a killing. Didn't have a dime, but I always had a vision. Always had high hopes. Had to have high hopes for a living. Didn't know how, but I always had a feeling. I was gonna be that one in a million. Always had high hopes.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I'm so excited to be doing this tonight, though it is something I didn't even plan for or announce earlier. So, my name is Emmanuel Tobiloba, and tonight I'll be having a conversation with Isaac Thani, who is a robotic engineer and is studying in Russia. And the reason for doing this is that for some times now, I've been immersed in projects in rural locations, and how when Isaac comes, I'm going to be discussing how I met Isaac, and it was something I call a very good orchestration. You know, my story was published on Zikoko, and from there I connected with Isaac, and we got talking. I got to know what Isaac is doing, and I found out that Isaac's major interest is education and technology. So tonight I'll be having a conversation with Isaac on the subject education, technology, and also how to harness technology in rural areas. Technology, education. Yeah, I am currently a project manager, and I work on farms, and working on farms exposed me to the life in rural areas. And you know what? One thing I found is that I can't just keep quiet with those things I see in rural communities, because there is need for a whole lot of interventions in this area. So I am so excited that I'll be having this conversation with Isaac tonight. This is not something mentioned before, or this was not something I wrote about. I was going to be having this conversation, but then it is time to have that conversation. So joining me would be Isaac, all the way from Russia. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, Isaac. You are live.
All right. It's nice to be here with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for making this happen. Like, I'm so excited. Like, I'm so excited. So,
Yeah,
Isaac, can we meet you?
Yeah, so I'm Isaac Thani. I was born in Jalingo in Nigeria. I lived a good amount of my years there, and then school took me out of Jalingo. So I schooled in Benue State first in Boko. There's a good school there called Alvarez College. So I went there for secondary school. And then from Boko, I moved on to University of Ibadan for uh, a, close to 2 semesters before I got the opportunity to move out of Nigeria. And then I came to Russia to study. So I've been in Russia for close to 6 years now. I graduated my bachelor's degrees, and now I'm trying to kind of study more and then check how to advance some of my skills that are going to be relevant for me in the future.
Awesome, awesome, fantastic, Isaac. You know, when you said you are from Jalingo, like Taraba State, I actually served in Taraba State in 2017. So where in Taraba are you from? Which part of Taraba are you from?
Jalingo itself, actually.
Jalingo.
Yes. To talk about, like, I was born in Jalingo. I lived basically all the time in Jalingo. But my village, if we could say my village, like where I'm from, it's Nida. It's just a few minutes drive from Jalingo, maybe 30 to 1 hour, 30 minutes drive from Jalingo, you can get to Minda.
Please go ahead. I can hear you. I can hear you.
All right. So I am from Jalingo, and then my village is Minda, but it's just 30 minutes drive from Jalingo. So it's equally Jalingo also.
You know, I said at first I was posted to Gazabu. At first I was posted to Sadwana local government, and the code there was too much. I had to seek for a refresh sort of that. I can't stay there. So I was posted to Bali local government. So I served in Gazabu and all. So for me, you know, though my passion for education started a while back, but serving in Taraba made me love education more. Seeing children that don't have access to education, you know, that's by the way. So I'm glad that I served in your state. And so tell me, how was it like leaving the shores of Nigeria to study abroad, like a place like Russia? How was it like?
I think on a general level, I would say it was a great opportunity that I advise everyone that has to maximize. So if anyone has an opportunity to study in a good place outside of Nigeria, is always a good opportunity to take because of benefits that will come with it, and the exposure, for example, and then the new relationships you can get to build. And generally, you can improve the way you look at your country, first of all, and then you can pick up a few things from the different places. So looking at Nigeria from inside Nigeria is different from looking at Nigeria from the outside and interacting with others also. And then I think it gives you a way of learning much more about Nigeria, because you have of looking at Nigeria if you are inside Nigeria. But then when you begin to go out, you can look at Nigeria from the outside and then also see others. So generally, it was a great opportunity to leave Nigeria. And I always say, I advise people, like, I wish it were possible for everyone to have the opportunity generally to travel, because travel gives one the chance to learn a lot. You learn much more from travel than you can ever do from other mediums. For me, I think that's really true. And then also, like, good exposure is always something that is relevant. So it's a great opportunity.
Awesome. Yeah. So you know, you said one thing. You said traveling is one opportunity to learn. So would you please tell us what you've learned as a result of leaving the shores of Nigeria? You know, apart from the connection you've made, the network you've built, what are those things, or probably the culture shock you experienced leaving Nigeria to Russia?
Yeah, I think for me, the first thing that I kind of pick from the little exposure I've had outside of Nigeria and Russia and in a couple of other countries I've visited is that when you look at the system, when you look at a country, for example, and you can complain about all the problems you want to complain about, and usually when we meet as Nigerians, we have a way of always coming to this side of the discussion, and like, we spend a good amount of time complaining. But at the end of the day, I've seen that it's all about systems. So putting systems in place, good systems in place that will ensure that there's improvement in quality of life, quality of education, quality of everything. So I began to look at problems not as separate, isolated problems, but I began to look at them more like systematic problems. So like if there's a systematic problem, I think it requires a systematic solution that will bring a long-term solution to it. So instead of looking at each of the, like, think of everything that you can think of that you will feel is wrong with Nigeria. You can look at them as isolated problems, but then you try to like quench the fire here, and you discover that the fire keeps popping up in this end. You can't quench it. If you change the framework of the way you look at the problems, you can see them as systematic problems. So instead of trying to quench isolated fires, you can try to fix the system, and then when you look at fixing the system, then you know that okay, this solution will not come as a quick fix. Like you can't fix systems overnight, but then you have a guarantee of long-term solution when you finally get it. So that's one of the key things I think I've picked from the little exposures I've had outside of Nigeria. So I've seen the good side of some of the countries, the bad side also, like because usually when we are in Nigeria, we have a tendency to assume Nigeria is one of the worst places you have because of the obvious problems we see. But I have come to see that all the countries are unique in their way, but they also have their own problems. So I've seen their good side and I've seen the bad side, which is not something one will see from TV or from press or from just surface or kind of glancing. But after spending a couple of years maybe and interacting with people, you can see that okay, actually these problems are there. So there's no perfect country. That's the first thing. And then I've seen that okay, problems are more the kind of the things that are wrong in a country are more systematic than isolated. So if we try to profile solutions as systematic solutions, then we can move forward because it will fix things for the long term.
Awesome. Thank you so much. From the conversation, I learned a whole lot of stuff. One thing you said that is remarkable for me is the fact that you said countries have their own problems, and most of the times you don't get to see this on the TV screens. They don't talk about this most of the times and all. So we only see that in that glitters from afar, thinking everything is perfect over there. So thank you so much. So I was talking about how we got to connect.
Yes.
I remember that my story was actually published on Zikoko. I think that was where you got to know about me. I saw your request on Facebook. I saw it on Instagram. That was how we connect. We got talking. I got to know what you do and all. So now, from that, I realized that you are someone so passionate about education. So why are you passionate about education? Where is that passion coming from, or where is that that thing about education is coming from? I remember you mentioned on a particular post made by Strive Masiwa months back, I think a month now thereabout, about education, most importantly in rural in rural areas. And also I have not just that I have this feeling, I know you are passionate about education. So why are you passionate about education? Why education?
So for me, I think the first kind of uh, experience I had with education, I say I was lucky to have a good initial experience with education. So I keep referring to my secondary school because I believe I had one of the biggest opportunities anyone can have in terms of exposure to good early education. So Calvary Arrows College in Boko was a good one for me, and I was able to get a good vector, like good framework to look at things from that kind of stage, from the stage of secondary school. So initially, like when you think of what you want to do, when you are a younger person, maybe you kind of just think arbitrarily about things. So it's very rare to see like you ask someone, especially someone that is doing above average in the class and maybe doing maybe top 5%, top 10%. You ask them, you kind of hear the interesting ambitions they have, right? Like all the impressive names, and in Nigeria it's common, like lawyer, doctor, engineer. So you rarely hear people talk about education as a passion. So, but for me, I got a different orientation. So I saw how teachers were able to like set people on the right path. Uh, like these people poured out their lives into making sure that each student succeeds in his own way. So I saw that, okay, there is actually a strong force in education. So I still didn't look at myself like a teacher. Even now, I'm still not a teacher in a way because I've not gone like to seek a professional education in teaching per se. But then from that experience, I said, okay, no. This has to there has to be uh, a, a, a kind of a way that this can impact every other thing. So I saw that, okay, we've got good teachers. Many of us are doing well, and many of us are on the right path. Like I'm happy when I interact with my classmates, my schoolmates. I know that everyone is on the right path. We were able to get good exposure. Like I got good international exposure right from SS1, for example, represented the school abroad, represented the country abroad. So those kind of experiences gave me like a good impression. And I know that, okay, if schools can achieve this, and then in a normal setting, everybody strives to go to school and the government actually encourages people to go to school, that means there is a huge opportunity in schools to impact the future, because you get young lads from their early age, they spend the most formative years of their life in schools, in the school system. So you discover that, okay, there's a huge opportunity, first of all. So there has to be a way to maximize this opportunity. And you know that, okay, this is their formative years. In these formative years, out of 12 months in a year, they spend 9 months in school. Each week, they spend 5 days of the week in school out of those 9 months. And each day they spend anything between 6 hours to maybe how many hours? Some schools are quite extreme now. They can take it to 12 hours. I don't know. But between 6 hours to 12 hours, like you see. And if you look at those that live in the dormitories, in hostels, they spend the full 3 months, full 9 months in school. So that's to tell you that this is a ground to sow the seeds for the kind of future we're expecting. So that's like the thing that made me gravitate towards education. So I know that, okay, there's a huge opportunity in changing the future. Like if we look at everything we don't like about the current Nigeria and everything we don't like about the current systems we're experiencing now, most of the time you can trace it to some flaws in the system, some systematic decisions that were taken that affected education. So you look at a particular generation, you see a problem that is common, let's say problem common to Nigerians that are aged 10 to 30, 20 to 30, for example. If you find common problems, you can probably trace it back to some kind of policy that was taken at the time when they were going through the system. So equally these things affected them, not in a good way maybe, but then if you take the right steps, you can also set them on the right path. So I think that's generally what I saw in education that has always made me gravitate towards education. So even though I'm an engineer by training, for example, and I'm still exploring how to grow in engineering, I still see that no, okay. The fact that you're an engineer doesn't mean you can't still come towards this fair, and there's a lot of promise in this fair. So that's what is driving me much more towards education, and then that's made me to like, okay, seek opportunities around to teach maybe, or to organize some things that are related to education. Try to start some business in education space. So it's a real thing for me.
Amazing. Like, we all have what drives us and why we think we do what we do. For me, it started when I was in tertiary institution. Where I stay in a community where young people doesn't have access to education. The only thing they tell them to do is to go to there's something here in the West they call Innopolis, like I think they call it Magdas or something, where they have to go, they learn Islamic study, something applicable, they have to go to church, all this kind of stuff. And those things didn't really sit well with me. And I'm like, man, you can just start with something, saw how they struggle to pay their school fees, though I was not able to provide their school fees or something, but in my own capacity, I was teaching, until I got to Caravan, to Kazabu, and I saw what, I asked myself, if this set of people are out of this place, what will be their future? At a point, we were asking the children at a point what they would like to become in the future. Guess what? One of those guys told me they want to become a youth corper in the future. I'm like, youth corper? Youth corps is not even a profession. How on earth do you want to become a youth corps? And these were the things that drive me, that drove me. I'm like, no, this thing, yes, we cannot solve all the problems in the world, but there is a particular problem we have been called to solve. That we have been called to solve. So it's one of the reasons, I came towards education. Last year, I did not have a prior experience in farming or in agriculture, but thank God for Google, thank God for YouTube. As a project manager, as a farm manager, I have to learn a whole lot of stuff on YouTube and all. Now, this is why I'm sharing this. When I got to the community, at first, I didn't really take those things serious. I see the children, they gravitate towards me, they smile, they laugh, they cry. Until I began to observe, these children cannot speak correct or could not speak. Let me put it that way: could not speak correct English. Like they could not speak correct English, and these were children that were going to school. You can't blame their teachers. Their teachers can only work with the available information with them. So now that was one of the reasons, that made me to that ground with my colleagues that no, we must get this thing fixed. Even if we cannot fix everything, in as much as this is our farmland, this is where we are cultivating, this is where we are, we need to get things done and we need to get things right from there. And that was, I didn't even know it was going to go far that way. And that was when Zikoko approached me. They like to grant an interview on 7 days in the life of a farmer. How I hope working on the farmland and also in the evening, trying to teach children and all. Now the truth is, it wasn't easy. Of course, I think we discussed 3 days back. He said we would like to have farming experience and all. Probably when you now get into family, you understand what I'm about to say now. That you go in the scorchy sun, trying to fix things, trying to tell tractor guys, this is how we want it, this is how we want it to be done and all. And you are out of farm, let's say around 3:30 Nigerian time. you want to rest, and before you know it, in the next minute, you see the children coming around you. Uncle, yeah, now let's go and let's go and learn, and you can't tell them to go away. I can't tell them to go away, and you just have to sacrifice yourself. And also, this for me is one of those things. That, yes, there are other things like I tell people my foray into agriculture, at the point when I try to when I got into agriculture, I'm like, will this dream of education die and all? No, but when I got into agriculture, I found out that education can still continue even with the rural community. And I'm glad we are in another farming season, and I hope I hope we do something better with them. So, Isaac, days back you said the first time we met, I got the glimpse that you are a robotic engineer. So, not everybody have access to information to know what robotic engineer is, and not even in this 21st century that everything is navigating towards AI and technology. Now you still find children in rural communities, they don't even know what AI is. And so how did you get to know about robotic engineer, and what was that thing that inspired you gravitating towards studying robotic engineering and other things you do as an engineer?
Yeah, okay. I think I'll first of all start by saying I'm like, when you're at the entry level stage, you feel like you are not really there as an engineer or as a, so I'm just starting. Like I finished my bachelor's in 2019. So my bachelor's was in a completely different area, not completely different, but not focused on robotics. It was in electronics. And then all those while, like I got into that program with a different intention. Actually, like I wanted to work in the energy sector, so I wanted to work in power. I wanted to see the kind of innovations that can be done in energy systems, and so that was why I got into electronics, even though it's not directly in energy, but I had the intention of working on smart grids and all, because that was the information I was exposed to earlier. But then during the course of my program, I gradually started seeing that, oh, it's cool to look at this topic about the, automation. Like everybody's shouting automation here and there. Everybody's talking about AI and the rest. And I could actually see some solutions being implemented, like real. I see some of these systems being built. I read about people. So I'm like, okay, it's interesting. So I think the aha moment for me to pick robotics was actually after I finished my or the last year when I was working on my bachelor's thesis. So I was applying to schools for further studies, and I saw schools doing energy systems, school doing something related to energy, and then I kind of prioritized them at first, even though I said, okay, I would like to do robotics, but prioritized energy first. And then I put robotics as the last option. And funny enough, I got the offer for robotics as the first one. So I was like, oh, okay, it looks cool. And I started looking at, okay, what is the future for me in robotics like? So I started looking, even though I was still hoping that I would do energy. But then I think I began to already picture myself living in energy per se as a field and trying to move into robotics. And it so happened that, okay, all my other offers about energy systems came with a clause. Maybe some of them said you have a full offer, but then you don't have a scholarship to cover your living expenses, and that can be stressful for a student that hasn't worked yet, hasn't started working. So like I began to see, oh, okay, these guys in robotics are giving me a full offer, and these guys are giving me some clauses that it's not certain. So I began to explore the opportunity, and then I read more, I studied more, and then gradually just moved, took the leap of faith, I would say. And then I began to like kind of read more, when you are going in a particular direction, you have some momentum in that direction, but changing within a short period of time is not too easy. So I began to study more about this kind of new field, which I already knew about, but I didn't look at it as a main thing I would do. So I began to picture it. So actually, it doesn't matter the particular title. It just matters. What matters is your skills. So you pick skills that are transferable, then you can transfer them to anything you want to do. So that's the same thing. And robotics is one of these fields where you pick just key skills, and then it applies to everything. Like there's medical robotics, for example. You would think, these guys are engineers, but they are medical roboticists that are building the future of medicine, future of surgery, impressive robots. They are agricultural roboticists, for example. They build machines, farms where they are almost fully automated. So I saw that, okay, I didn't actually leave what I wanted to do. What I wanted to do are my key interests, but this is just a field where I would pick transferable skills. So ever since I've been on this path, I've been trying to learn and then trying to pick skills. And I would say I'm just scratching the surface in general terms. So I am still learning. I hope to move forward in the next few years, maybe in the next year or two. I hope to be doing something more concrete with these skills I'm picking up now.
When you were talking, struck me, I would like to ask, when you decide to pick up robotics as robotic engineering as a career choice, even though it was accidental. Now, what was there any objection from your parent, or did they influence more? Did they influence your decision more in taking that path?
I think all through in my house, for example, myself and my siblings, we've had the freedom to choose the general fields of interest we want to study based on our kind of our aptitude to those things. So like right from school, okay, these are the subjects that interest you, and it's visible in the result you have. Sometimes some subjects can interest you, but the results may not be in that part. I would say, even if, like, for example, you love maths or something and you are not necessarily scoring the best scores, right now, what I'll tell somebody in that position is still pursue it, since that's your interest. But then for me, it happened that the fields of interest were also fields where I was doing good at. So same thing for my siblings. My parents just kind of give you general guidance. And of course, they would have had some things in mind that they wanted to suggest to you, but then they don't push you. So my parents didn't push me. So I had kind of the creative freedom to pick what I wanted to do. When I said, okay, it's robotics, they just asked me, okay, what is this robotics? Not many people are. And when I told them, and they said, okay, are you sure that's what you want to do? Yes, okay, everybody is good. Nobody was kind of distressed about the choice.
Okay, amazing. I love that word, creative freedom. One thing that has stopped a whole lot of children these days is the fact that their parents want them to do, if it is not medicine, if it is not law, they still don't consider those things as something important or something good as a career path. But there's there's a paradigm shift now, and it's more like all these jobs are going into, quote and unquote, going into extinct. And just like you said, people need to transferable skills that are more like future-oriented skills that can be useful in the future. So I love that word, creative freedom, where your parent allowed you to pick what you want. Now, you've been in Russia for a while. I know this question I'm about to ask is not something really on the same space, but I would still like to ask, how would you compare the Russian educational system with the Nigerian educational system? What are your observations, and what are those? What are now? Let me do this. What are those lapses in the Nigerian educational system that you see that is not in the Russian educational system, or what's your overview of the Russian educational system and the Nigerian educational system?
Okay. Um, I think I will like to uh, frame kind of my answer in light of looking at what are improvements that can be picked from one system and transferred into the other. Because, like I said, one of our favorite pastimes as Nigerians outside of Nigeria is to sit down and complain about all the things that are bad about Nigeria. But then when you look at other countries, you see that they also have those moments, and frankly speaking, those conversations don't lead to any improvement. So I would say I'll highlight a couple of things that I think if they were kind of worked upon or improved in Nigeria, it will lead to reasonable shifts. So
Okay.
the Russian system is quite famous for the many outstanding scientists and researchers and world famous kind of writers that have come out from this system. So like they have a long history, like not the Nigerian system itself is just less than maybe just around 100 years old. And when I say the Nigerian system, I mean when they began to do some kind of amalgamation and do all the things in history that we've read about. But then you talk about Nigeria as a country, is just about how many? Just from 1960 to present, that's like around 60, 62, 61 years. Yeah, around that level. So you discover when you want to compare it to systems where they have existed for centuries, it's difficult. So, but then a good thing is that I've seen that is here is that there is a continuity in the system. So like there is a sketch of educational schedule, and it stays pretty constant. So everyone knows that 1st September is resumption all over the country. You know that, okay, exams are being taken, the winter exams are in January, the exams in summer are in May, are in May, and then May, June, thereabout. So it's pretty constant, and you discover that there are no obstructions to the learning process, like nothing like strike, for example. So if you enroll for a 4-year degree and you don't have personal problems that can delay your studies, or you don't, maybe sickness or something, so you take a break. If you don't have that, you are sure that you will get out of the system after that with your degree. But the strikes we have in Nigeria is a large crippling factor to the efficiency of the system. So when you have these breaks, there are a lot of things that come into play. Like you look at the percentage of students that keep dropping after each strike, you discover that, okay, they go on strike and not everyone in the class resumes back. Maybe some female students, maybe they have some challenges and they are just off the system, or some people just go out of the system, and because they are out of the system, not skillfully engaged, they can involve themselves in unproductive activities that would hinder them from returning. So like one crippling factor is a strike in Nigeria, for example. That's a big crippling factor, which is not here. So that's one thing. The second one I think that I'll say is to talk about kind of the mode of delivery. So mode of delivery of materials. If you come to the good kind of good schools here, on average, there's more or less of emphasis on you understanding. So for example, the way we do our exams is you come to the teacher, professor, and you kind of have a conversation. So that's the exam. You come to the exam, there are questions, you pick a question, you have a few minutes to write, your answers, but then you don't write your answers and then leave and wait for your results to come in the next month or two, as is common in Nigeria. You write, you take the paper, like write, you keep the paper, then you are called in and you sit to have a conversation with the professor. So you discover that you are not just writing something you've crammed in your head, because you can copy from, you can copy from anywhere you want to do and write it on paper. And in a Nigerian system, it would have been okay. You've written, you get a pass, irrespective of maybe where you got it from or something. But here you have to sit down and then you have that conversation with the teacher. So you can write something that looks impressive, and then after the conversation, you get a C. And you would, in a normal sense, you would think it's not fair, but it's, if you look at it critically, you discover that the teacher is giving you one of the best chances ever, because it doesn't matter what you wrote on paper, you should articulate it. If you can articulate the information, that's the real amount of information you have gotten that you can apply in your life. If you can't articulate it and you can only write it, you've just done a little part of the learning. So like, they value what you can articulate more than what you can write down or do anything. Like, articulate it. If you can articulate it, it means you have it here. You can take it anywhere with you. But if you can only write it down, in real life, you don't write things, you do things. So that's like the good thing I like about it. So you don't have to like do a lot of writing. Sometimes the teacher knows the grade to give you without looking at what you've written, based on what you have said. And you know, like, you can't say something clearly if you don't understand it. So like, it makes the grading way easier, because the teacher can know from interacting with you whether this guy has understood the materials or not. And once the teacher is convinced, like, he is the teacher, he has the right to give you the grade there. So I think that's a good thing. And then you do your exams and get your grade immediately. Like, you finish your exams, you are leaving the exam hall with your grade. So you discover that's a very good thing. So you don't write an exam and go home to pray, should I get an A or C or something. You write your exams, you talk with the teacher, and then you know the grade you have when you are leaving. That's it. So I think that's a good thing about the system. And also another good thing is the availability of basic amenities. Basic amenities. By basic amenities, I mean you are sure in a class of you have at least a class of okay, when you are taking general courses, maybe you take large lectures, but then the class ultimately is still a class of maybe 15 to 25 or 30. That's it, like 15, 25 or 30 on a general level. Of course, if you look at the system, just like I said, I'm trying to highlight the key things that can be transferred. I know a lot of negative things about the system, but I'm consciously not naming them, because at the end of the day, they won't add anything to us.
Yeah, so very good.
That's the approach I'm taking. So like you have those classes, and then you can interact more, and then and then basic amenities, like, okay, you have materials provided to you from the school's library. So you resume the school, you can't complain that you didn't have money to go and buy, because the school has a library where the materials are being given to you. So all you need to do, go to the library with the list of courses you have for the semester and pick the books. So that's one thing. So it goes a long way to help you, I think. Another one is you have at least, okay, this is more individual, but at least you have spaces where you can learn. You have spaces where you can learn. So spaces where you can learn, maybe the library or some kind of auditoriums. I know there are good schools in Nigeria. I have seen some of them, like UI was quite okay. There are still negative sides to it, but I would highlight the positive things. UI, at least my own course, was pretty okay. It can be improved, but it was pretty okay. So like, then there are still a lot of other places in the system that is not okay. So amenities go a long way to put you in the mood. Somebody like me, I want to be productive. I can't study in a place when I don't have a table. That's as simple as it is. So like, if you put me in a place without table and then you are wondering why I'm scoring, I'm having bad grades. The simple reason is I'm not able to study. That so I have the table, then I can study. So like, you would wonder that, okay, this guy performed good earlier, like he does well in his place, and suddenly he's not doing well. We should look at what's missing. And in many cases, for many students in Nigeria, it will be access to basic amenities. Like when I mean, I say the very basic. Of course, you can go to places and try to talk about like big budget for tables and a lot of things, but there are basic things that I consider necessary. So ideally, in an ideal system, I think every student should have a desk and a chair that he can say it belongs to him for this semester. So that would be a system I would consider as ideal. So like those are things. So basic amenities, access to those basic amenities, books, and materials like books, where to study, good light to study with. Because at the end of the day, you have a good desk, and then you don't have light to study, which is unfortunately the case in many rural areas. Not just rural areas, but it's more pronounced in rural areas. It's a big disadvantage because good part of the day when many students actually get to do work is being stolen from these kids because they can't do work. They can't stop it. So that's like for primary school students, for secondary school students. For example, in my school, secondary school in Nigeria, it was in a rural area. Like that's the funny thing. Cavalry Arrows in Boko, Cavalry Arrows College is not in Boko town. It's in a rural area, but it's a good system that works. So we know that there is always light. Before electric, like the school was started, there was no electricity there, but there were generators and they were always on for preps. So there's always good. And again, every student had the basic amenities I'm talking about. Everybody has his own desk, and you can't share. Like you can't say, okay, I came to my desk and somebody is using it, because everybody has their own desk. So you discover that you can control your time, you can control everything, and then so like those are things. For that to be available in the school, which was in rural Boko, for example, it means that if somebody is working on the system, it can be provided to every rural community in Nigeria. So you understand. So those are things that I think so. I think I'm speaking too long on this. Maybe yeah. So we have these basic amenities provided, and then for modern students now, I would say it will be incomplete not to mention access to internet. But again, this is basic amenity I consider, like internet, for example, good internet, because many times you have much more resources available online. Of course, you can make a case of students wasting time, but you can also make it like, if you think the students will waste time on the internet, then they are probably wasting time without the internet also. So you have to provide the minimum basic and then try to kind of give them a right orientation to use their time productively, because whether you give them internet or not, we have students that can come to night prep and just the whole night prep. So if you say like they have internet, they would solve online or something, and then you think keeping them away from the internet is safeguarding them, then you're totally wrong, because they come for prep and just the whole night also. So like I think that's it. So I think these are some of the things that are good. There are good schools in Nigeria that are making progress, but some of them are not actually accessible to everyone. Like when you look at Covenant University is doing quite well. It's competing on the global level with many universities in top countries. You can see that they have those things in place, but not everybody can go to Covenant University because of first of all, the cost barrier is pretty steep, so not everybody has that privilege. And then even if everybody is going to have the privilege, like let's say many people have the privilege, there's still at the end of the day a finite number they can pick into the system every year. So I think that puts a limit, and we can go on and on, but I think I've highlighted the key things that I see useful in the Russian system that can be applied in the Nigerian system. So I think I would stop here. Like, there are a lot of things, but these are the key things. Let's say we do this minimum, and then we're sure that the system is already on the right path.
Wow, thank you so much. Like, those tips are really useful, and on the issue of basic amenities, I remember this back when preparing for exam, and the next thing is that there's no light to read. There's those kind of things practically drain students, and there is no way you would not need light to read, and you can't be going about in this 21st century can do. Yes, in extreme cases, we have to improvise using, and there is no how you even use a rechargeable lamp without light, because you need to charge rechargeable lamps and all. Like you said, we are not focusing on the problems. We are dwelling more on the solution. Like, when you started, you said something. You said it's a systemic problem, and for you to correct the systemic problem, you need to start from the system itself. So it should be a systemic solution also. So it's more like a systemic problem versus a systemic solution, which is why we're having this conversation. So, we said we want to spend 45 1 hour. I think if we continue this way, we'll even spend more than that. But before you go, just two questions. Now, if tomorrow someone wakes you up and like, Isaac, what would you define the 21st century education to be? So what's your own definition of what education should be in the 21st century? And that's the first question. I think you should answer the first question, then I would ask the second question. So what do you think education should be? How do you think we can redefine education?
Okay, it's a difficult thing to try to condense kind of the random thoughts, like not random, the different directions I can take this to. But I think I would say, in short, in a few words, I would say education should empower people with the right skills that will help them learn things that are necessary for what they are doing. So empowering people to learn so that they can apply it to their lives. In summary, that's what I'll say. I think that keeps it short and simple. There's no need to elaborate and go deep, because it would begin to cloud the main thought. So basically, empowering people to learn and apply it to their lives and their environment. So empowering people to learn and then to apply it to their own environment and then their surrounding. I think that's a good one. Yes, yeah. So I think you got it. Education should empower, learn, and then apply.
Yeah.
Learn and apply.
When I asked the question as regards the Russian system versus Nigeria system, you made mention of something profound, where you said the education there is that after you've done whatever you've done, you sit down with your lecturer, then you have a conversation as regards what you wrote as an exam with your lecturer over there, compared to here. You write exam, you go to church, you pray, God, let me pass this exam, this certificate. I must have a first class. I'm not against a first class. Of course, when I was in school, to God's glory, I also made that grade. So it is not something I will write off completely. But then, in the place of first class, there is a place where you need to know the application of those things you're actually cramming. There is a system here we call cram, pass, forget, CPF, cram, pass, forget. And I think the difference between what you said as regard what is availed over there and what is there is this fact that you practicalize what you, or it's more like whatever you are giving out to your lecturer stays with you forever. That's when we can have problem solving engineers, not just engineers on paper, not just engineers
Yes.
on paper. So
I'll add
okay.
one element of that process is the transparency in the process. So the transparency in the sense that the teacher is examining you, right, to get into your head to see what you have, but at the same time he's transparently telling you why he's giving you that grade. So it's a two-way process. And then you can challenge the teacher. It's surprising, like, the first time it was an interesting experience, because in Nigeria the lecturer is kind of like a god in the space, and then no one challenges him, and he takes A, he gives the class rep B, and gives the best person like C. Those kind of meets.
Of course.
It's like this process of the teacher listening to you and trying to pick what you have up here at the same time is one part. The second part is that before he puts the grade, he tells you, I'm giving you this grade because of this. And then if you feel like, no, I know this material more, probably I was unlucky to be hooked in one corner. Sometimes it happens that you understand 99% of the material, and then the 1% you don't know, that's where the question came from. Even though that could happen and the teacher can say, no, you should know all the material, in a surprising way, you can challenge the teacher and say, okay, ask me any other question from the material. Like if the teacher wants to give you a C and you believe you are a B student, you say, no, ask me any question, I will answer. And then the teacher say, good. Gives you the question, you answer. You say, impressive. He gives you a B instead of the C. So you see that it's a transparent process, unlike the process where everything goes on in a shady kind of, the teacher does what he likes, and then you don't even see your scripts in many cases to kind of know what has happened. This is not. You can challenge the process right there, and if you were going to get a B, maybe you couldn't articulate well a point, and then the teacher says, I can't give you an A because you are not answering this way, and you can say, no, okay, the problem is with language, for example, the problem is articulation. So you again ask to re-express whatsoever you have said, and then in many cases, the teacher being fair, I would add also that you have fair teachers, they don't mind. Like nobody is keeping A's for themselves.
Wow, that's awesome to know. Not a system where someone will tell you, do you know, the number of years I actually had to go through before I can get my professorship and all. So another thing I wanted to ask is, being a robotic engineer, I'm so passionate about, for myself, I am not a tech person, I would say, but when I saw that there are future possibilities in tech, I started learning how to code myself. So I started teaching myself how to code and all. So it's more of that skill I want to transfer to the children, where we'll be farming this year also. So it's more like I'm teaching them how to code. The older ones, where the systems will come from, like the systems will be easy to code, I don't know. But I just know that we must get it done. At least I feel these are transferable skills. If they can go out there to help people with it, earn money, then even help their families. So another thing I want to ask is, how do you think tech can help increase the educational participation in the rural area? How do you think tech can help increase the participation of education in the rural area?
I think the first thing is that technology gives us superpowers. That's the first thing to say. So it gives us superpowers in the sense that, look at the magic we are doing now. Right now, me and you are doing the magic. We are able to discuss with us, and like we are discussing with ourselves, and we can communicate with billions of people at the same time. Anybody that comes onto this live feed can listen to what we are saying, and it's a good process for them. You understand? So that's the power in education. Like, it gives you that magic, that superpower, I would say, to scale things in places, in ways that traditional systems won't allow. For example, before, if you are like, you could be the best teacher in a particular area, but you can only be in one place at the time. You can't, like, irrespective of how you want to help people, irrespective of the passion and drive you have, you can't be located in more than one place at a time. And also, you can't teach for more than a couple of hours, like more than amount of hours. Like, even if you are a teaching machine, you teach for hours. You in a day, you still need to sleep. You understand? You still need to take breaks. So you discover that. But education has made that way. Yes, it has solved some of those, like, problems. We are not omnipresent like God, for example. We can't teleport. But then one teacher with good materials that is available on YouTube or available on some other platforms can mentor more than, like, basically you, and like, not as many as are willing to learn, basically, that have access to those things. So the challenge with rural areas is that there are a lot of challenges. That's the challenge. And
myriads of them.
You don't have the capacity to kind of solve all of them. And when I say the capacity, it's not even talking about the finances, because even if, let's say, Dangote says, Emmanuel, I'm giving you 12 billion naira to solve education in this community, use it. You discover, before, when you don't have the money, you think money is a problem. Money is a problem. When you get the money, you discover that money was not the problem all the while. Because you discover that there are key things, that there are things that are processes that will take time, and there are processes that need proper structuring for them to, like, achieve the desired results. So for rural areas, you have, like, accessibility. Some teachers won't want to be located in rural areas, and then some people in rural areas don't have the means to, like, move to where they can access material. But then with technology, you can discover that there are a lot of opportunities that we can think about. Like, the internet, again, is a challenge, but it shouldn't be. Like, if there was internet and there's a good kind of power, then it gives them automatically access to the platform, so we can say, okay, you can access this platform. But still, that is not still a limiting factor, provided there are people that can get to those locations. So there's a good Nigerian entrepreneur that I admire, tech entrepreneur. Right now, he's working in the educational space. Sim Shagaya, for example. Okay. Maybe you know him from Konga, the guy that started Konga earlier. So he is working on an edtech platform. I can't remember the name now. He discovered that, okay, they've made an app and they teach classes through that app. But that's, like, for urban kids that have, like, phones where they can download apps. But then I think they have an option where they can send these materials recorded in discs or something, or memory cards. Not this. We have left the era of discs. But they can send this material on memory cards. So you discover that for these people, for people that have challenges, that maybe the cost of internet is too much or is not even stable enough, nothing stops you. Like, people in the villages have smartphones now. They just maybe don't have good internet. They can get this SD cards with loads of materials and watch them. So those are, like, ways that you can try to bridge the gap. It's not an ideal way, but it's a good working way. So, like, those are some of the ways. So again, what's the main question? Like, how tech can improve access, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So thinking of the not so ideal but working ways. So the memory card is not the ideal one in this space where we have people using internets that are like 5G, 4G. Things go lightning speed.
But these are our reality.
Yeah, so it's not the ideal way, but it's a working way. Send those materials by flash drive. So like you have a hard drive of materials. I can remember when I was in school, while I praised my school a lot with like good light and good amenities, the reality about Nigeria is that internet is still too expensive. Like the last time I went to Nigeria, I was spending like what I spent in a month for internet that was still subpar to what I have here. What like I spent and the amount of money I spent for internet in a month was more than the amount of internet I spent, the amount of money I spent on internet here for a year. So it's not even the question of money now. You discover that I spent more there, and then on average, most Nigerian guys, I believe you are also the amount of money I'm spending on internet is more than like you spend in a month is more than what I spent for a year here. So discover it's not a money issue. It's just that the infrastructure is not stable there. It's not developed. So you discover that amount of money has gone. But then, what am I saying now? I'm beginning to lose my thoughts now. But like, so it's not just.
Okay. I think you've picked it up now, right?
Yes.
Or you still want me to help you?
Yes, maybe you can help me.
Yeah, you were talking about how tech can be harnessed in rural area. Then you now mention of the Shagaya guy.
Yes. I have this. I was going to mention my school, for example. I have this hard drive. I've been using this hard drive from secondary school, or maybe when I left secondary school. And then I can remember that my school was very good. I've praised it like it's the best school in the world and all. But you discover that there was a problem that was way out of their league in terms of the cost of internet. So like the school was good. There were amenities, there's light and all the things they could handle, they handle. But then they can't just bear the unbearable cost of internet, and at the end of the day, it's still not the quality like you would enjoy normally. Like I spent more than a year's worth of money there in Nigeria for internet for a month, and it was still not the quality. So, but then a good solution then was hard drive. We had a lot of materials. God bless those people that recorded the materials and downloaded them. So a lot of them like packed and then just portable. People have it. So like, so this hard drive has been with me for like since high school, and most of those materials I had. I remember my early brushing with programming. Not so successful, but at least it was an exposure. Started with the materials here, and then there are many of those materials that are available. Open source, you don't need to pay for them. You just need to distribute them fairly. When I mean fairly, you can't download them for free and then go and start selling them because the license doesn't permit that. But then, provided you have it, so like people can just get them. So not everybody can access the internet, but everybody that is ready to learn at least can invest in an SD card, a large SD card. And then it's not the ideal position, but it's not the ideal solution, but it's a working solution. Get those materials and then they can watch. So Sim Shagaya is doing that with his company, and I think it's very good. If we watch the space, there's a lot of hope for us, for example. So a lot of hope with what he's doing, and hopefully like we would see a lot of entrepreneurs bubbling up in that space, because it's a huge space. It's a huge space that has direct impact. So entrepreneurship can create real value for society instead of just trying to, like some people, when you say an entrepreneur, some people look at you and say, oh, this guy too like money. It's not about like, you can create value. So for example, your venture in agriculture gives you access to some of the things that people living in Eko, people living in Abuja can never really come in contact with. Even if they know that it exists, they still have limitations. You can't access these things. By virtue of what you are doing, you are able to use your time wisely and then invest a little bit of it in helping people. So that's the same way technology entrepreneurship is also there. Like, so you create ventures that are hopefully profitable, and then they're also adding positivity to the society.
Wow. Amazing. Like, this is amazing. You know, early I think that was in January. I was privileged to anchor a particular SDG um, section in the states, like my state. I'm from Kwara State, Nigeria. So I was, we had the essays on SDG education and all. So one of those conversations we that was raised also was what I asked earlier, which was how can we make education accessible for young people in rural area using technology. And I remember one of the principal from one of the schools said something profound, which, like you said, is not the final solution, but also a working solution. There is no way you would preach, for example, let's say, um, um, coding to a guy who doesn't even know how to write um, the English alphabet, or who
Yes.
doesn't even know how to write numbers and all. So, like, I think the micro memory card is not a bad idea. Another thing the person said, which I can pick vividly, was that he said the idea of a radio, like being like a live transmission and all. Though it might be a kind of expensive venture, quote and unquote, but then these are working solutions that can, in their true sense, help to bridge this gap in the rural area. So now, that should have
You
been the
know,
last.
the
Okay.
yeah, the good thing about the radio option, also, like, I can remember I was part of, like, I contributed to the criticism when I think some people from the Ministry of Education were suggesting this during the first wave of Corona. Like, I
Corona.
think someone mentioned, I can't remember who in the Ministry of Education, but he said, like, we should broadcast the lectures over radio. So of course, trust us. I say it's our favorite pastime. When we meet
Yeah.
as Nigerians, we sit down and blast everything. So I was
Yeah.
also blasting it. But at the end of the day, we were not expecting that from kind of the apex authority in education. But then
Yeah.
for grassroots solutions, those are perfectly things that can work. And it looks as if the cost of radio is actually large, but if you look at it, it's not large.
Mm.
It's something that can be done. So, like, cut it down. First of all, there are radio stations that have access to all these communities already broadcasting. So if
Yeah.
there's a good good kind of rapport with them, they
Yeah.
don't broadcast all through the day. So in the times when they are not on air, you can hijack it for educational purpose, because it will need a lot of agreement and a lot of good, like, you need them to come on board and know that, okay, this is for impact, not for profit, for them to allow you to do it for free. Like, even if it means you not completely free, but maybe you pay just for the running cost of the
Amount.
equipment, but then okay, but then, so if you have a couple of communities that are willing to learn from that, then you can have a top teacher teach from that. Again, this is slightly shameful to be saying in the 21st century, because it's not the
Obviously.
ideal solution, but you have to start with a working solution, and it can work in that case. So, like, there are many innovations that can be done. There's a Nigerian, not just a Nigerian, but there's a professor now that is dead, Harvard professor, Harvard Business School, but then a Nigerian that has worked with him. His name is Clay Christensen. The Nigerian that has worked with him is oh my God, why am I forgetting his name? The Nigerian that has worked with him,
You mean Clay Christensen?
Christensen, yes.
I think he died few years back or something.
He
wrote,
died recently.
yeah, I think during COVID or something. He wrote. I'm trying to remember the book he wrote now on wealth.
He wrote Innovator's Paradox. He wrote.
There was one he wrote
I have
on
one of
wealth
his
too.
books. Yes, how will you count well? Yes, so there's a Nigerian, interesting, Efosa, working with Clay, that worked with Clay. They had a couple of materials out together, and then a book. I can see it on my shelf right now. So these are like, I like the idea of innovation they are preaching. Like, it doesn't have to be something out of the blues, right? It can be something that exists, but then you adapt it to current problem or something. So I think I like the ideas, and I always quote them. And I'm always proud also that it's a Nigerian that's worked on some of these groundbreaking ideas with him. So they are good things to read. And then so for us as 21st century innovators in education, trying to work with the 20th century systems that we have to innovate. If not, we won't achieve much. So like, that's the first thing I think we should embrace. And then we have to also agree that the innovation we are doing may not necessarily be like what you think about as innovation, like, oh, you just invent something out of the blue, you're the first person that is doing it. No, the things that are currently with you, the things that are currently around you, if you can use them to work, so that they are good things. So like, you are a 21st century educator trying to work with maybe 19th century systems or 20th century systems. So innovation is the only way out. And some of these things are ideas that they don't have to be the ideal ideas, they just have to be working and delivering the results.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. So 2 questions, then we leave, because I said we wanted to use 45 minutes. We've used more than even 1 hour, so it's fine. Okay. Now, you graduated with a first class. How was it like? As in, I guess you graduated with a first class in Russia, right?
Yes.
How was it like graduating with that honor with that honor abroad? And what were those? Sorry. And what were those factors that really worked for you? A young person could be watching you now abroad also, and would need those kind of things. Well, what works for you might not work for that person, but then principles are general. The application can be different. So can you please tell those things that were pivotal in your quest to graduate as a first class student?
Okay, I think I would mention this first. I always mention it first when I talk about the fact that I graduated with first class. Like, first class is overrated, especially in Nigeria. So like, in Nigeria, there's like, oh, I go to the school, I want to graduate with first class, and I think it's pretty overrated. So outside the shores of Nigeria, it's okay, graduated, good. First class, good. That's all. Like, so I would say that it's way overrated in Nigeria than here. So here it's like, it's okay. You graduated with first class, good. It doesn't say much. It just says that you were good academically. Good. That's like the first thing. So I again, like, I encourage people to do their best in the academic system, but then to know that, okay, don't look at that grade as like it's overrated in a way. It's good to have it, but then you can have it and have a lot of other good things with them, such that, okay, you are talking not just because you kind of were good at passing some random test or cramming and regurgitating or some of the things, but you're also actually good at applying what you have learned. So that's the first thing I like to say. But it was a nice experience, actually. There are many pluses that come to them with them. Like, so for someone studying out, for example, I say, first of all, you plan the outcome you want. You decide, you plan the result you want, and then based on that result, it should now determine how you work. So you don't work and then say, oh, I hope or I pray or I wish like that. That's like the wrong way to look at it. You're looking at it upside down, or kind of the wrong way. The first thing is the goal first. The first thing is the outcome you desire, and then that outcome will dictate to you how you would work. So right from the first month I came, like right from the moment I was leaving the shores of Nigeria, I decided this is what I want to graduate with. So I didn't come and then study anyhow or anyhow I could, and then decide that, okay, I hope like I get that, but then, so I decided this is the outcome. And then I came, and the first thing I did was to find out, if I want to get here, what do I need to do? So I think that's one of the things that helped me to keep me kind of focused on the path, because for anybody that has gone to school knows that after you finish your first year, you can gradually lose focus like that, especially school. But then that, I think for me, that was the key thing. I decided the outcome for that at least, and then I worked towards it, and then it was there. So some moments that where it seems as if it's not there, and it's not like graduating with a first class has nothing to do. Okay, I won't say it has nothing to do, to be inaccurate. I'll say it has, like your intelligence is a little part of it. It's not a major part of it. Like it's a little part of it. So you can be very intelligent and lazy, and then you would graduate out with like worse results. And there are many people, of course, the grade at the end of the day doesn't give a sentence about what you can achieve in your life, because we can see famous examples of people that had bad grades, they did well. That's not a good model to emulate, but then that only tells us that, okay, the grade is not a final sentence on your destiny of what you can do, and it should serve as encouragement for people that maybe are struggling with academic work and are not getting a good grades, or maybe they made mistakes and didn't perform as best as they could. But having said that, like every average person can actually work towards great outcomes like that. So plan the outcome, decide what you want to do, then you find out what needs to take you there. So it's not like, okay, it's not like this first class has suddenly made me like out of the blues and rich a night, for example, or something. No, but at least it's something I can hold back to as a good track record. That I planned this thing and I was able to achieve it based on key principles I looked for. So like that. So usually you decide what you want to do, and then hopefully with you working and with God helping you also, you would achieve that. So anybody listening to this now, that's like a framework to use. Plan the outcome. So by then, before I go for an exam, I know that, okay, when I go to this exam, I'm getting an A. Like I want to get an A. So what do I need to do that? So that's it. Again. So I think that should guide people, and it's the same thing I try to work with now, that I'm not necessarily in an academic system. Like currently I'm not pursuing an academic program, but I said I was in School21. It's a very interesting system. I think it's better we don't touch it now. But if we touch it, we can do another 3-4 hour session, because I would just say anybody watching, if you're interested, you can Google like École 42, the system of education in France. It's a good one. So like there are no teachers, for example. That's one shocking thing about the system. So
can you repeat that, please? Can you repeat that?
École, like école, okay. French word for school.
École. Okay. 22.
All 42,
right? 40. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. So it's an interesting system, and then I think when I put the non-traditional pedagogy in part of what I wrote as my studying bio, it's what I was actually referring to. Systems where they are not necessarily the traditional ones, but they are working. So there are many systems like that around the world, but I'm currently privileged to be passing through this one, and it's good. So.
Okay. Is that all?
Yes.
Okay. So because I just checked the comments now, then I saw a question. I don't want to take that question now. So I want to ask a question which will be I think will be useful for an average young person out there, which is in few words, what are the skills you think young people in this age can pick up to be relevant? What are those skills you think young people can pick up to be relevant in this age?
Um, okay. When I'm saying this now, I think I'm speaking to myself. That's why I paused. Because I'm also saying it to myself to remember and pick it. So I discovered that, first of all, critical thinking is important.
Critical
Critical
thinking.
thinking.
Okay.
Critical thinking. So it doesn't matter what you study. It doesn't matter where you go to. You know, we had a way of laughing at students that were not studying medicine and top engineering programs or law, for example. In the Nigerian
Yeah.
system, when I like even right from secondary school, like you ask, what do you want to be? Somebody tells you what you want to be, and then you have a way of looking at as if this guy is either he's not good enough to study these things with us, or he's not ambitious enough. In any case, like you look down on them. But then I think it's like critical thinking is important. So it doesn't matter what you are doing. If you can think for yourself, then you can stand out. So I think I like the book of Proverbs where it says it talks about somebody that can give reasons for their actions, give reasons for their thoughts. So it says like, I think it was talking about fools. Like there's a part, there's a way Proverbs talks about fools that is touching, is humbling. So it says like, a fool thinks. I'm trying to paraphrase, and I can't remember the scripture where like a fool thinks, like there's a fool that thinks he knows things better than people, maybe 4 people or so that can give reasons for their actions. So this comes like from critical thinking. If you think critically, then it doesn't mean that you're always right, but at least you can give reasons for why things have gone this way. You can give reasons for why you are doing this. So it gives you a chance to receive good feedback like that, because people cannot help you if you don't know where you're coming from and where you're going to. And usually, if you don't know how to think, then you can't even properly articulate your thoughts, and then you can't properly, like you can have access to Bill Gates, you can have access to, I don't know, Dangote, you can have access to anyone you think of. If you can't articulate what you need from them properly, pick them, then the time is almost a waste. So I think critical thinking is important. That's the first one. It's needed everywhere. Like if you want to advance everywhere, you need that. That's one. And then I think the next one is communication. Clear communication, speaking and writing is there. Like you need to be able to speak clearly. You need to be able to write clearly in this age. Because if you have ideas and you can't communicate them out, then you can't find people that can help you kind of bring those ideas to light. And again, as people, you can't do everything yourself. There's a limit to what one man can do. Like at the end of the day, we are not Supermen. We would like to think that we are, but we're not. We need people to help us, and we need to be able to communicate with them. And then it brings me to the last one, like developing good relationships. I think it's necessary. So if you build good relationships with people and you build good networks, then many things will come easy to you than when you just kind of want to go the hard way. Like for every single thing, there are easy ways to do them and there are hard ways to do them. And sometimes it's your network that matters. in the spirit of regular motivational speakers, they say your network is your net worth or something. Those motivational speakers, sometimes we laugh at them, but we should listen to some of the things they are saying. They are speaking truths. So we should listen to some of the things, even as we laugh at them and say, okay, this guy is trying to say a lot of things. We should also listen to some of the subtle things they say, but they're actually making sense in many cases, just that sometimes they just overshoot them. So your network, I will repeat that, as I'm not a motivational Your network is your network.
Is your network.
Many things you can easily access them. I can remember in UI then we had a couple of guys that came around to speak, and one of the things I still can't forget is somebody that said, okay, I still have this article somewhere, but I didn't prepare it, so I won't pick it. Like he was listening the kind of the sources of capital you have. Like you mentioned 4 items, I would not be able to remember all the 4 clearly the way he said them. But like, first of all, you have like your financial capital or something. You have your network capital or something, people you know. Then
social capital.
Yeah, social capital. So some of those things are important. I think. You can think well, you can communicate well, you have a good network. I think I would stop there. There are many things that can be said, but I like to give top three things that I'm thinking of and leave it there.
Okay.
If I believe if people can pick the top 3, all the others would follow.
All right, thank you. So I keep saying one last question. Okay, you know what? After this, someone asked the question. I'm going to display the question on the screen. Then after the question, I'm going to ask you a critical question. Then we end this conversation. All right. So I'm going to display the question now. Can you see it? If I may ask, what would be your opinion to solve the fading interest of students/youths due to societal pressures?
Okay, this is a challenging one. How to solve the fading of interest of students. I think how to solve. It's a big question. I won't be able. I can't answer it in one sentence, but I'll attempt to say something that comes close to that. Like I think first of all, there are many stakeholders that need to be active in solving this problem. Many stakeholders. When I was mentioning all the things that are needed, for example, for schools in the rural areas and all, I didn't mention the fact that somebody should not learn on an empty stomach. For example, yeah, it's not a possible task. It can't be done. I've tried it before. You can't do it. So nobody should. So I believe this is what Damilare is also talking about in that line, like societal pressures, like maybe they don't have someone that can sponsor them through school, for example, or they don't have someone that can give them good guidance, or like they need to fend for themselves. Sometimes we grow in privileged backgrounds and we assume that it's the same for everyone. Like I grew up, I would say, in a pretty privileged background, not rich background, but privileged, because I had people that fended for my needs, that could pay for my school fees, feed me. Many people, unfortunately, will not have that, and I think they are big. So these are like big things. I think a good thing is to have a good social system. When I say social support system, so when I say that, it's like not just like trying to, like, I don't know, what do you call it now? Like trying to reward laziness in a way, because sometimes some of these systems can tend to reward laziness. Like people, like if you come to some funny systems, people earn more when they don't work than when they work. In a particular threshold. So you discover that, come on, why should I work when I can? Like if you are working, you go to some systems, some countries, it's funny like that. If you are working, they stop giving you the social support, and what you are earning from your work is less than what you are getting from the support system. So you decide not to work like that. So I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about like social support system in the sense that I didn't mention one element of the school here. A large percentage of it is free in Russia. I didn't mention that. So in Nigeria, I think it's a negative. It's something that is absent also. So when you have a system where a large percentage is free, and then so you discover a lot of the pressures has been removed. So just try to picture, instead of paying the school fees you pay, like irrespective of the school fees you pay in Nigeria, whether it's just 15,000 naira or whether it's like 500,000 naira or 1 million in some of the schools, irrespective, like just imagine that that burden has been deleted for 85% of Nigerians or 80%. It's a huge thing, because without that burden, then instead of the regular 15% that goes to school, it goes to improving the quality of their life and reducing some of these pressures that Larry is highlighting. So I don't know the ones he may be having pressing, but in any case, I can't still answer. Like, this is a big question that I can't answer. I'm just attempting to say a few, like, give my 2 cents basically. So like, these are some of the things. A good social support system. So a social support system makes sure that people can go. So children should not study on empty stomach. It's not doable. It's not possible, but unfortunately, many kids have to go through that. Some of the things that need to be in place. So I hope my 2 cents are going to do something small. But again, it's a big problem that all the stakeholders have to be involved. Like rich people in the society. It's not that they must do it. Like, it's not something that is directly on their neck, but it's a responsibility that they can take as an act of service to the society to support some of these programs. And charity alone won't do that. So the government has to also come in with systematic solutions on how to do that. You know what? Usually when we think of a problem, then someone says, in Nigeria, I can remember social service. We say the government should.
Without considering individuals.
Yeah, I try to limit when I say the government should, because who is actually the government? When we say the government should. So I try to limit that, but I think in this case, you can't limit it. There are some things that are issues of policy. So policy will go a long way to fix some friction in the system and improve. So like, that's like some of the things that I would say, like, people that are capable in the society should do that. Policy that needs to come to help, and also as normal people, there's always something you can do as a normal person. Like, you are a normal person, you are not you are currently not Minister of Education. Maybe in the future, hopefully you will get to that level, but you are doing your own part. Like, you are doing your part, and then you have interest in the system, you do that. So as common people, you know, there is a tendency to think, oh, everything is good with me, then I don't need to worry. But then there's another young Nigerian guy that I would quote, Ian, that founded Andela and Flutterwave and Africa. He says, like, I'm paraphrasing him now. You don't think that everything is okay with you, then that's all. Like, if you are living in a broken system, you would experience this thing. And he gave an example of the crash, the flight, like, I can't remember, the flight that crashed, you remember? And he was supposed to be on that flight, and many people died. Many young, promising Nigerians who were sharp, their parents were rich. Like, for them to afford the flights from Abuja for excursions anywhere else, you discover they are from the top class of Nigeria. But then suddenly, those bright guys were ended, like, died because they were living in a system that doesn't have some things working. So like, if anybody, like, you are elevated to a good position in society, and when I mean elevated, you would tend to think that, okay, you are big or you have money or something. No. Elevated means you can look back and see 5, 10, 20 people that you are doing way better than. That is elevation. So it doesn't mean that you're a billionaire or something. You just have people you are doing better than. If you are in that position, and I'm sure most of us are in that position, like, you are not the last person in Nigeria. You are not the person at the bottom of Nigeria. So if you're in that position, lend a helping hand to the people that are behind you. Because you can always pull people. At least you wouldn't be able to pull them ahead of you because you would have been ahead then, but pull them at least to your level. So, like, do your part, like you are doing. Like, young people can do a lot of things, and one of the things we have is energy and time, and always invest it. You can either decide to, like, you could decide to just do your farming, come back, play PS4 till midnight. Nobody stops you, but you are not doing that. So like, It's the same thing. Like you can decide to spend your time and energy in other places. You can decide to do many of those things, but you can decide to also channel it to good places. And I think that's what we try to do. So everybody elevated. And when I said elevated, it means you have people you look back and know that they are struggling more than you. You can always help them come to your level, at least like that.
All right, thank you. Okay, I think that was a profound one, and I think Bolaji would pick one or two points there. So let me add to that also. So I'm going to tailor my answer to probably, because the question says, if I may ask, what would be your opinion to solve the fading interest of students due to societal pressure? Now, what interest we don't know. So let me tailor the answer to interest in education as it is. Now, first, I think, like you said, that the problem is systemic. And one thing we need to realize is the fact that most of the teachers are not speaking the language of the 21st century to the students. Now, what do I mean? Now, you can't compare digital immigrants to digital immigrants. Now, these teachers are digital immigrants, while the students are digital immigrants. Like this, they are digital natives. Now, let me put it that way: digital natives, millennials. Let's say millennials, Gen Z, and all. Now, the way you communicate, like I used to say, to reach the heart of a child, you need to speak the language of that child. To reach the heart of a child, you need to speak the language of the child. Now, the problem is one thing I've realized is that many teachers don't understand the language to reach the heart of students. So this would lead to fading interest. Now, I before I left Lagos, I volunteered in a tech of teampreneurs of amazing or fantastic or basically what we do at teampreneurs, because I'm still part of the team, is STEM. Of course, science, technology, engineering, math, and all. And there is the founder. You might be watching this. You might be watching this, or you might get to watch later. And one thing I found about him is the fact that he knows the language to reach the heart of his students. Now, these students, they came up with maternal care solution, other solutions. Now, this student might not necessarily be good, quote and unquote, academically, but when you engage their consciousness in thinking, they can deliver results. So these are things that make them, that foster that thing in them, that, oh, I am going to school to meet a teacher that is ready to encourage me to do better. Not a teacher that would, there are slangs in the educational sector in Nigeria. They call you names like Olodo. Olodo means someone that doesn't know anything at all, and all those kind of things would make a struggling student, have a fading interest in education. Now, there is a critical thing here, which I don't think I can discuss at length here now, which is youth due to societal pressures. I tell people, yes, pressures are flying everywhere. Like pressures are flying everywhere. You are under 30, you're not 30 yet, and you see your friends, buying luxurious cars and all. You are tempted, like, man, these guys, we are both in our 20s, 27, 26, 28. Like, man, how can this person be having access to this kind of stuff and I'm not having access to? And this thing, it still boils down to what we've accepted in the society. What we've accepted in society, and what are those things? Now, fraudster has become, people don't hide it any longer that there are fraudsters and all. We celebrate mediocrity and all. These are things that constitute to the pressure. And I think one way to do this is that every individual must know his or herself. Every individual must know his or herself. Oh, when I'm not trying to sound inspirational now, but when some things, you don't kill yourself over some things. Yes, they are part of, in the place of students where to someone like that really understand the language. I'm not talking to fellow young people. There's a part you need to understand your own journey. Yes, I don't want to say negative things about Nigeria now. Like I don't just want to say negative. It's the system can be so frustrating, frustrating your business, frustrating everything. But we must come to that fact that there is a path we need to go through, and there's something called destiny timeline. It is when you don't know all these things, you tend to now put pressure on yourself. My friend is doing this, I need to do this, and most of the time these things are flimsy. Now, there's a, I won't mention the name. There's a popular Nigerian actress, that went to fake a UN award. Now the question is, to what end? Who are you trying to oppress? Now these are the frivolities young people see and consider as societal pressure. These are frivolities we see as young people, but we consider them as societal pressure. Now listen, for a child that his or her parents took the child to a special center, a miracle center, what the child just need to do is to sit down, they write all the answer for the child, and the child comes on Facebook after the release of the result, A1 parallel, and to whatever God the child serves, and say, thank goodness I made it. Now a child who has seated, like who sat, read, but made C's and B's, would feel like, man, I'm not enough. But meanwhile, it was a one-sided story that the child whose parents enrolled for a miracle center had A1 parallel, but he's not sharing the behind the scenes stories. I think these are things we need to watch out for as young people. We don't need frivolities here and there. When you get to Instagram, you see a whole lot of operations there, people standing in another person's car just to take picture to put on the ground. Now let me share this funny story. In 2019, I decided to volunteer for a particular school during the Children's Day, and I was in charge of the bouncing castle. I was playing with the kids and all. Then a grown-up adult came around, swiped out his phone, requesting that I take him pictures. I'm like, picture for what? And I said he wants to take pictures with the bouncing castle so that I can upload something online to tell his friends that he's doing Children's Day. Hello. We most times it is not pressure. We just want to fit into a society we have not yet grown to fit into. We want to answer names we have not yet grown to answer. So I think it is true. It is still on the youth part. It is still working in our process. That's why I said I can't really answer this a whole. We the young people of nowadays, we don't want to take correction. We just want the answer. We don't want the process. And I feel the process is a major thing. Where I currently work, I don't have an idea of agriculture, how it works. Thanks to Google, thanks to YouTube, I learn every day. But apart from learning, there are people that are not educated, but yet you need to listen to them. You need to listen to them to learn. So in my own opinion, for children, for students, teachers now need to start speak the language to reach the heart. Many times it will take it will take teachers to beat their ego down, like to water their own ego down, then come down to the level of the student. And secondly, for the youth, it will take the youth to recognize that some of the things we call societal pressure are frivolities. Yeah, so I think BJ is saying here that great answers, thanks. So lastly, I don't want to take your time. Lastly, what is the critical part your faith has played in your journey so far? What is the critical part your faith has played in your journey so far?
I think my faith for me is in the first place. It comes in first place ahead of every other thing I do. It's like my source of motivation comes from my belief system, because I believe in God. I'm a Christian, and then I strongly believe that I can.
Okay, sorry. Now I'm glad you said you're a Christian. Now let me paraphrase that question. What has been the impact of the Holy Spirit in your journey?
Okay. Okay, that brings it home. I think it makes.
Yeah.
I think it's clear for me. That's my source of inspiration. I think that's my, like, I try to live based on my belief in God, and it's clearly written in the Bible, clearly what it means to be a Christian. So I do all I can to live as a Christian. So every other thing I do, I say, I think it has to pass through that filter. So if I want to think of something to do and it's not something that is being approved of by God, then I cannot do that. I'm not saying that I'm perfect in any way, but then I say that, okay, everything I do, I try to pass it through that filter. And even for the mistakes I make, I realize that they are mistakes and then I try to repent from them. But I have a framework that is guiding whatever I'm trying to do. So that's it, in short. And the Holy Spirit is important. Like, you can't relate with Jesus now because he's not with you physically, but the Holy Spirit is a part of Jesus that has been given to guide you. So I use that resource a lot. It's a good resource. It's a friend. It's a comforter. So I try to access it a lot in my daily activities. Like
Wow,
that.
wow. Thank you so much. We've talked about what education means to you, and one critical thing I take home, and I clearly wrote it down in two places, both in my diary and my jotting notes, is that education should be more of learning, and in that learning you need to learn and apply, learn and apply, learn and apply. So whatever thing you want to do, you need to be a problem solver. We talked about how innovations can help foster the strength of education. And Isaac, thank you so much for making us do this. I'm so excited that we
I think
actually had time to do this.
it's my pleasure for you giving me your platform and also helping me to think clearly, because these kind of interactions, first of all, help me to put in light some of the things I desire. Like, some of the things I'm saying is not things I necessarily have perfectly going, but they're because, like, aspirations. These kind of conversations also help to do that. So it's a big thank you to you. And I mean, when I read Coco to stay kind of in touch with what is happening on ground, and I like the way they put their stories. They go down and digged up. So, like, I think, apart from when I'm very busy every morning, every Monday, I mean, I go to my inbox and look for the Coco that comes in. And, they have the
Yeah,
series where they do
series. Yeah,
7 days. So I
the
have,
life
like,
of,
I like the series about 7 days. I like the series about the morning. So I read that and I was glad. I mean, the story is it's very impressive. It's very inspiring, because
thank you.
not many young people are in that part. While we're hoping that it will change, but your story is one of the stories that will help effect that change, like get people interested and get people motivated to do that. Because some people may have a little faint desire, but they may feel, oh, come on, what can I do? Or my efforts are too little, too small, too late, kind of.
Mm.
So, but I think those kind of stories are very inspiring to read, inspiring to see. I think it's good. So I would appreciate you for the platform you've given me and then the exposure. It's really a
Thank you.
privilege.
Thank you. And I
And
hope we'll do this again. Okay.
yes, one thing I would not do justice if I don't mention is to tell anybody listening to this to seek opportunities. Even in Nigeria, it looks as if it's bleak, but if you look deep down, there are opportunities everywhere. So I came to Russia not because my parents could not necessarily because my parents could pay my school fees, but I came to Russia, for example, on a federal government scholarship. So not many people may know about that. And in the Nigerian spirit of Nigeria is broken, many people could hear and say, oh, come on, it's broken. I don't even need to apply because I don't know anyone there. But I think it's a wrong assumption that keeps people out of opportunities. So look for opportunities actively. They exist in Nigeria, as strange as it may sound, they exist. So look for opportunities and never stop applying for opportunities that will give you such exposure. So federal government scholarships are there that gives you opportunity to go out and the government pays for you. So like I cannot like I have no excuse if I don't do something reasonable with my life. Because unlike people that didn't access this opportunity, I accessed the opportunity for free. So like what's my excuse? So I think it's a challenge I'm giving people also. The challenge I give people that didn't access because they didn't try applying is, what are you doing? What's the excuse? The excuse can't be that you don't have it because you didn't even take the step in applying. So the federal government scholarship is just one of those things. There are many other scholarships available and they are not scam. I believe like there are many scams that are going around. So one has to be careful in the amount of on the way he checks information, but they exist. Look for them. The federal government scholarship is not a scam. The federal government scholarship is good, and I would advise anyone that has access to kind of these opportunities, look for them. The information exists, and not just about scholarship. Also, there are many other opportunities for entrepreneurs that I have not accessed yet, but I know about. So I know that there are still opportunities. Tony Lumelu is one example. So I mean, even in the desert land, there are oases. You understand? So even in Nigeria, when you could assume like, you need to know somebody or not. I didn't know anybody in the federal government, federal scholarship board, and many of my peers also didn't know anybody. So I encourage you only stop developing when you stop looking for opportunities, because you only find what you're looking for. So look for opportunities. They are there. If your dream is to travel out or something, I always had that dream, so I was always searching and found. So search also, aspire big. There are many things that are there. So Nigeria is not a desert. Nigeria may look like, even if it looks like you are living in the desert part, there are oases that you can go to. So look for opportunities. I think that's the one I would drop.
Yeah, thank you so much. You know, as regards opportunities, yes, there are opportunities every and there. You mentioned Tony Melu, like last week, you know, I got into the court to be trained, and I belong to the what's the this thing now, instructors category. You know, we're going through the.
Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So we'll be going through the training before writing our business plan, then pitching and all.
Did you know anybody there?
Bro, you know, I didn't know anybody actually. You know, just have
Nigerians, we need to consciously be saying this, because there are many people like there are many people that actually believe that if you don't know anybody, don't apply. Like, don't waste your time. So we need to actually. Like, I didn't know anybody there. I apply. Yeah, there are people that are still working on merit.
And one thing, like you said, you know, we need to keep searching, we need to keep asking questions and all. You know, I read tons of articles on how to apply for Tony Elumelu Foundation. He might be watching. His name is Mr. Benga Ogunbowale. You know, he wrote a very good article on Medium about how to win TEF $5,000 grant and all. You know, it was just procrastination. It was 2 hours to the deadline. I was like, guy, how far now? I just looked at my board. I'm like, guy, this is part of your goals. You've not achieved this. You know, in less than 2 hours, I was halfway done with the application before. You know, I had to do the cognitive test. I had to do the personality test. You know, before you know it, after the whole thing, I was sent an email that I belong to the instructors category. Further email will be sent out. Even if you don't get to win those kind of opportunities, you've learned, you meet people, you widen your network and all. Well, I'm not going with the mind of even though I don't win, because my mind is to win and all, you know, and keep 4 more into my entrepreneurship journey. I know, Isaac, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate you. You know, I can't thank you, you know, out of your schedule. You know, at the point I was like, man, should I tell Isaac that I can't do this anymore? You know, I came in around that time. I was chatting. I just came in. You know, it was a long day for me, but I didn't even post it on Facebook that I was going to do a live. You know, I'm just like, man, let's just do this. And here we are.
For me, it's a big thank you, because like I slightly misunderstood earlier as I explained, so I was not expecting it live.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I was supposed to be in a different meeting, but I don't know. I somehow felt like, okay, I should just, I don't know, something just said, okay, just So if you had not mentioned, or if you had given me the option to opt out, I would have probably opted out. So
Yeah, we would
thank
have
you
done
for
this
that.
today. All right. So, what's your final word as we go tonight? Like, what's your final word to people out there?
My final words I would drop is aspire to something great. Like aspire to something great, and when you aspire to something great, work towards achieving it daily.
Mm,
And so aspire, work towards achieving your aspirations, and then don't lose touch with reality. That's it.
don't lose
You
touch with
aspire to
reality.
something great. Like it doesn't matter. Like for example, you are interacting with students that maybe somebody is listening and is thinking, okay, I'm from a village in Nigeria, right? Maybe somebody is thinking about that. I've met people out of Nigeria, and when I hear their stories, I say, wow, inspiring. People that come from very, very, very underprivileged, underserved backgrounds you think about, and they are doing great with their lives now because they aspired to something. They did things that will help them reach their aspirations, and then they are not losing touch with reality. So, like, you are in a village now doesn't mean that you should be in the village in the next 2 years. I was in Jalingo now, but I always had a dream of studying outside. I knew that I want to study outside. So if I had mentioned it to some people, maybe they would say, "Oh, come on, this guy, what do
You'll
you
have
think?"
watered it down. Mm,
Yeah, look at it. So I mean, when you aspire to something, it's I don't know. Paul Coelho, the guy that wrote the Alchemist, I think he
yeah,
says
alchemy.
the universe will
Conspire to help
yeah,
you when you're
conspire.
ready.
Yes, but you can't leave your destiny to random events. There's a place
Oh,
for random events. There are
mm,
things we can never do. Like the way I met you, for example, I could have never planned it.
mm,
It's very it's very unthinkable. But then
mm,
those are things. So the random events should come in to correct your path
mm,
and do things you can never think of. But in as
mm.
much as possible within your own reach, always aspire to something. Random events will correct it. Reality will show you, but then you aspire to something. You didn't hit the goal, but at least you tried,
Yeah, you tried. Yeah.
like that. So aspire to something great. That's it. Yeah.
All right. So thank you so much, Isaac. So I look forward to again. Might not be a live section on Facebook, but probably when we start the coding class with the children, probably might just want to take them on something. And I really look forward to having you one day. Probably when I have one of the largest farm in Africa. Like, you know what, bro? I can't be walking around measuring how many hectares I have. Can we just build a drone where we just fly to know the number of hectares? So I really look
Yeah,
forward to it.
it's good. I think it's a great one. I mean I like the picture you have. I like the dream. It's doable. It's actually existing now.
Mm.
So these solutions you are talking about, they are not like solutions somewhere in
The
the
rocket
distant future.
science.
They are things that are already on ground. The only question is bringing it home. That's the only
Yeah.
question.
Mm.
Bringing it to our locality because they exist already. So I like the way you're thinking. You think big, aspire, and then do. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it sums it up. So I
Yeah.
think I came with the mind to pick a lot of things, and I've actually picked from the conversation for myself, first of all. So I would say thank you again. Hopefully,
Thank
we'll
you. Thank
discuss
you.
much more in the future.
Thank you. All right. Good to have you. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you. We see you at the back end.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much for those that have taken their time to join in. Thank you so much for making this real, making this happen. So it will have been probably a total waste of time if nobody's watching this, even without any prior notice or something. I still see people's reaction on this video. I see comments, I see questions and all. Thank you so much for doing this with me, and I hope to bring another speaker. This might not really be consistent because we're in a season where we need to get things done. This might not really be consistent, but I hope to bring someone with an inspiring story, um, probably sometimes next week to share a story with the world, and inspiring story at that, and inspiring story at that. So thank you so much. God bless you and have a pleasant night rest.
I be king, I'm the best my generation ever seen. I came suddenly, I be like Nepa Bill. I never since, I never miss. I be smashing, I been killing everything. From Ikeja to Ojuwe, like that bridge. To the many places that I've never been. Remember this, I'm a king. I'm a legend in the making, I'm a champion. Remember this, I'm a king. I'm a legend in the making, I'm a champion. Remember this, I'm a king. I'm a legend in the making, I'm a super good. Hey, I be finding silver lining where the mother said I need patience in due time, and I'll be reclining by design. I've been grinding for my needs. Bought a whip to give my nephew, put them diamonds on my knees, shining so dope that I purchased 88 keys for mama to play a song and call my ADHD. With this baby face, fine, yeah, them rarely hate me. Get them belly aches, love them waist deep. Every occasion, I put money in safe keep. Very impatient, be on time when you pay me. Very evasive when they hating what they see. Made me a nation, then they crown me as their king. Bell rings and then my hands are raised. MGM Grander Mandalay. Envy him now while my victory has just begun. When you see me, just know you looking at a motherfucking champion. I'm a motherfucking champion. Remember this, I'm a king. I'm a legend in the making, I'm a champion. Oh, champion. Remember this, I'm a king. I'm a legend in the making. I'm the average boy from the average streets, with an empty pocket and a bag of dreams. Many things where your eyes don't see, many tears where your eyes don't bleed. Through the rise and falls, I made it to the top. You not get anything when you want to. Oh, I'm a champion. I'm a king. I'm a legend and I'm a champion. Oh, I'm a motherfucking champion. Remember this, I'm a legend and I'm a king.